Gaming is great, and in the 80s we all knew that, but it had one major drawback. You had to be in your living room in front of a television to play. Surely there had to be a better way. This is the Atari Lynx. Specifically, this is the Atari Lynx 2, a slightly redesigned version that was smaller. This one you see is just over the size of my hand, and a few other improvements as well, including slightly better battery life, more reliable hardware overall, and a redesigned cartridge slot, which is now on the back, whereas it was kind of in one of the hand grips before. It improved over the original quite a lot in a few places, and also had things like a better backlit screen, and with the ability to turn that off as well. So there's a button to turn off the backlight to save battery life. But it did also replace the stereo headphone socket with a monaural one. Yeah, it's a fascinating piece of hardware. The Lynx was not created by Atari, although obviously, well, we'll get onto that bit, but it was developed by Epyx, which is in fact a software company. In 1986, two engineers who had worked on the Amiga, R.J. McCall and Dave Needle, were asked by their former manager, David Morse, if they could work on a design for a handheld gaming system. The idea had come when Morse's son had asked if it was possible to do. And so McCall and Needle joined Epyx, where Morse was already working, and started to officially work on the design. In 1988, the design was at a point where Epyx felt ready to show it off, so they took their Handy system, which is what the machine was called by Epyx at the time, to the Consumer Electronics Show in January 1989. At this point, Epyx realised they didn't really have the finances to produce the Handy on their own, and felt they should find hardware partners, so they started approaching gaming companies. Primarily, obviously, back then if you're talking gaming companies, there were a few names that stood out. And so they approached Nintendo and Sega. But obviously Nintendo at this point were already planning their entry into the market with the Game Boy. And Sega were, as they always have been on several occasions, uninterested in using someone else's design. They, of course, would also later enter the market with the Game Gear. Eventually, Epyx got around talking to Atari, the granddaddies of the gaming industry, and they signed an agreement where Atari would handle production and marketing and Epyx would produce games, that being, of course, their speciality. But before this project could actually kick off, Epyx was forced to file for bankruptcy, which left Atari in control of everything. A fact that probably soured slightly when the news came in that due to the handheld's legacy, with the two engineers that helped design it, it required Atari and third-party developers to invest in Commodore Amigas for development. Genuinely sleeping with the enemy. So the Atari Lynx is based around a WDC65C02 with a custom 16-bit graphics chip called Suzy. The Lynx was introduced in 1989 for $108, initial sales being good, with Atari selling most of their initial 50,000 test market units in just a month, and by 1990 it shipped around 500,000 units, not shabby by any means. Sales started to slow down when the competition entered the market though, and by 1995 both the Lynx and the Game Gear combined had only sold 7 million units compared to the Game Boy, which on its own had sold 16 million. Yeah, well, the Game Boy, it's another machine I'll certainly cover at some point, but I think that's one that most people know quite a lot about. Well, come 1993, the launch of the Jaguar was fast approaching, and that was the machine that Atari were putting all their eggs into, and so they moved the focus away from the Lynx. The later failure of the Jaguar, of course, left Atari in a shaky position, ended up selling out, and therefore ended the Lynx altogether. It's an incredible piece of technology. The designers had managed effectively to make a machine that could look as good as the Atari ST and the Amiga, but with hardware that was far more affordable and far more power friendly. Its library has some exceptional titles in it. Just bring a few in here. There's lots of really, really good games. These aren't necessarily good ones. I think that nobody would probably disagree that California Games is the Lynx's Tetris in terms of how it's associated. And yeah, these are games that did end up being other machines. This is probably one of the greatest versions of Zybots, in my opinion. And frankly, this game is just nuts that it works at all. But it does, and it works very well. This machine actually was part of a bundle, which was the Batman Returns bundle, so it actually came with Batman Returns, which is a good game as well. Yeah, and we can actually, you know what, I've got two cartridges here. So, as well as the hardware changing over time, the actual cartridge design changed as well. Let's talk about the cartridges because they're really nice. So, these are really, really thin. So this is one of the original style of cartridge. You see, it's got like a little ridges there and a couple of standoffs there, but other than that, it's pretty flat. These are really thin. Look at the size of these cartridges. They're just a wonderful design. If you compare that to the later ones, where they've got this kind of hook arrangement, which made it a lot easier to get the actual cartridge out of the machines. But again, still wafer thin. Same goes. Yes. Right, now we'll look at the machine in a minute, but obviously, generally on these things, I break this down to 3 parts. I talk about the history, I look at the hardware, and then I play some games. Now, whilst you can get TV out of a Lynx, so you can get it onto a screen, I don't have the facility to do that. So I think I will probably rely on emulation just for once, because I tried videoing the screen with other handhelds, it doesn't work well. So I think we will rely on emulation just this once. The emulation for the Lynx is so mature now that there's not going to be any differences anyway, so it's fine. I mean, I could play all the games because I do have the rather funky, although now slightly old hat, Retro HQ Lynx SD. A fine device, but I believe the newer ones that they've just released are actually better. So, but yeah, Retro HQ makes some very, very good SD solutions for consoles and handhelds. Right, let's look at the hardware then, and then I will throw up some emulation. I probably won't bother doing voiceover on it because it's emulation, so it would feel weird to do it. Right, well, I mean, yeah, this is the machine. 2 sets of buttons because these were designed to be ambidextrous, so there's a flip button right here, and you could actually make the screen turn around, so you could use it either-handed, which was a very funky and novel idea. A really quite lovely colour TFT screen in there. Bearing in mind this came out a few months after the Game Boy, just a few months. This was astonishingly more powerful than the Game Boy, but by the same token, of course, it was also quite a lot more expensive than the Game Boy, which is part of what killed it, plus the battery life. The Game Boy could last a car journey, this could not. So that was part of it. Although maybe if the 2 had been released, which has slightly better battery life, earlier on, maybe it would have done it. The 1 does have slightly less battery life, and I personally, although there are a lot of people that prefer the 1 style, I prefer this style by far. It's more comfortable for me. Right, yeah, you can also, there's several screens, so doing multiples of buttons will flip it and restart it and reboot and stuff. So on-off buttons there, the backlight to the backlight on and off. Yeah, the crosshair, which is fine, it works really well. Maybe not the greatest in the world, but it's fine. So on the top we have volume, we have a headphone jack, we have the Comlits cable because this could do link-up games, and there are a few that do exist for that, so that is possible. The power socket to put the power thing, and a contrast to help you see the screen better. Or brightness rather than contrast, I guess. Yeah, this is one thing that got added to in the console, is these lovely rubberized hand grips. They really do make it a lot more comfortable. And on the bottom, really, this is where we place the 6 AA batteries. Yeah, I mean, I genuinely love the Lynx. I think it's a wonderful little handheld. It was, when you look at it now, it was almost impossibly good for the time it came out. It genuinely was when you look at what else was around. Now, obviously, these weren't the first handhelds. There were plenty of handhelds before, even the Game Boy. But this was really kind of the first big push for handheld gaming, and Nintendo won out in the end because they literally had the right product at the right price. Handheld gaming was pushed as being something you could do out and about, and the Game Boy simply was just better to use out and about because it was smaller and lasted longer. But that doesn't take anything away from the Lynx, which deserves its place in history because it was an astonishing piece of equipment. Right. Well, I will do the outro now. And then I will put on some game footage at the end. If I ever do get a method of putting video out on this, maybe I'll do a kind of a follow-up on with some actual footage of me playing it. But until then, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. If you really enjoyed the video, please hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video or you have something else to say, then please leave it in the comments below. See you next time.
Thanks for the ride.